Greetings, people of the internet. This is Scott with CircWorks, and this is 100 Days of Making Comics, Day 15. This is the show where I put aside all the things that are going on in my busy life, whether that's client work or whatever. Well, I don't put it aside. I still have to do it. But I make time in the day to work on my own personal comic book projects. If you've been following me for the past few episodes, you'll know I kind of had some adventures over the weekend. I just want to let everyone know I am perfectly fine. I'm safe at home now and I'm back in my studio. And yeah, there were some comments. Some people seemed generally concerned if I was all right or not, and I am all right. But yeah, so had a few adventures. You know, I took a four-wheel drive off a cliff. I had to survive in the wild for a day or so. Fought off a bear. If any of you guys are ever confronted with a bear, the best thing to do is just punch it squarely in the face. I read that somewhere on the internet. Maybe that was a shark. I don't know, but it was on the internet, so that means it's true, right? Anyway, so I'm back in the studio, back thinking about comics again, and put in a little more than my 30 minutes today. There's still a few more hours in the day, so hopefully I'll get back to that after I'm done with this video. But what was I thinking about today? Well, I was thinking about today and actually yesterday. And I guess I'll get back to that in a minute, what sparked this whole idea. But I've been thinking about formats, specifically, like, for instance, does a comic book have to be 22 pages long? That's the standard format. Not does it have to be, but in my case, the previous issues I've done for my comic book, Young and the Dead, and you know the drill if you've been watching. It's kind of Goonies meets Now Living Dead, Kids vs. Zombies. I'm working on issue 3 now. But, so issue 1 and 2, they were both, 22 pages long. So I'm thinking, well, I've got the story for 3. Somehow I've got to condense it into these 22 pages. But do I really need to? How important are formats? Things like that, like page formats, or even like, for instance, and this is probably just me, but I kind of grew up in the era before YouTube where, you watch your television programs, they're 30 minutes long, hour long, they're always kind of the same. Maybe every once in a while I have a special 1 hour episode of something, but everything's kind of, falls in this format, so I kind of got used to this, and I'm wondering, is it really that important? Does it have to be, every comic that I put out, does it have to be 22 pages long? These videos, so I do these videos, sometimes they're 5 minutes, sometimes they go on for like 15 minutes. Is that cool? I mean, are people like, well, I'm not going to sit around for 15 minutes and watch this? Some people would rather a longer episode, some people might not. So I don't know if it makes sense that if I kept it all, like if I kept a time limit, well, the video is going to be this long, and then after that I'll shut it off or whatever. I'm kind of happy with how I'm doing it now. So yeah, in some cases I don't worry too much about that, but certain cases I do. And again, this is me, and I'd like to get some other people's thoughts on what they think. I don't know what's kind of going on in the mainstream of comics, if that's the way it is, if it's still, you've got your 22-page issues, or if they break that format or whatever. But the reason I'm thinking about this, so I don't get a chance to watch a lot of TV. Most of the time I am watching TV, it's usually something that's on my monitor while I'm drawing or something, just kind of in the background. I don't have cable or anything, but every once in a while I'll go over to my girlfriend's house. She has cable and she tapes some shows, and sometimes we'll watch some shows together. So we were watching Louie, and I don't know if any of you guys ever watched the show Louie. It's Louis C.K.'s show. A very, very cool show, and a little segue, but it's relevant, and it has to do with the Louie. It's just called Louie show, whatever you want to call it. But sometimes it's good for artists to look into other mediums for what we could be doing. One of the things that Louis does with his show, this is really interesting, and it really relates to what we're trying to do, creating these personal comic book projects, doing our own thing, kind of for ourselves and hopefully find a fan base and everything for that. But that's what he's doing. From what I understand, he struck some kind of deal with FX, the networks that he's on, and they pay him X amount of money to produce his shows all by himself. He does all the editing, he does all the writing, he stars in it, he does all the casting, all this stuff, or he himself hires, other people to do some of this, but a lot of it is just done by him. So they give him X amount of dollars to produce the show, and he has full control over it. He can do whatever he wants. And really, if you've seen the show, you'll know why that's probably a good thing. It doesn't fall into these conventional standards that you would think I don't even want to call it a sitcom, because it's not really a sitcom. But the episodes they don't. You watch one episode and it could be a completely different theme. Sometimes they're really funny, sometimes they're really serious, but it's just really well done. I mean, so the episode, like I said, I was over at my girlfriend's house. We were getting ready to make dinner, and so we weren't real hungry yet, but we figured we were gonna just put on a show to watch, and we decided, well, we don't want to watch an hour-long show. Let's just put in Louie. It's 30 minutes. It's a good show, so we'll do that, and then we'll be hungry and we'll make dinner. So we put in the show. We start watching it. It's really, really great episode. This one had to do with he finds his daughter, his like 12-year-old daughter, smoking pot, and then it goes back to him growing up, as his experiences with drugs and everything like that from a young age. And really excellent episode. But we looked at the time, I don't know what's called, a time code or whatever, that tells you how long the episode is. Hour and a half long. So here we thought we were putting in this 30-minute show. It ends up being an hour and a half long. And I don't think there was any fanfare behind it. It wasn't kind of on a very special Blossom, hour long, Of course, I don't really watch commercials nowadays, so as far as I know, I don't know whether there was any preemptive advertising to show that this was an hour and a half long episode. But so it kind of caught me off guard, but the way the story was and how great it was, and you really have to watch it for yourself to see how it plays out. And it wasn't preachy or anything like that. It was just really well done. And I don't think he could have told that story in a half-hour episode. So he probably just took it upon himself, like, this is his show. I've got this story to tell. I don't care if you're going to say I only have 20, 30 minutes to tell it. I'm gonna do what I want to do. And so that really got me thinking about, do I have to confine myself in these 22 pages? Can I kind of go off script with that? Can I, how important is that really? Especially in today's age where media is just, it's just downloadable media. You don't really wait for something to come on the television. You get it when you want. You can watch it at your own leisure. So if you don't have that 15 minutes or that, or 20 minutes or 2 hours or whatever, you can save it for later or whatever. So I don't know how that relates to comics. I don't know what the comic, mainstream comics are doing. Not that I'm trying to be mainstream. And back to Louis' show, he's not trying to do what everyone else is doing. He's doing his own thing, and this is a critically acclaimed show. I assume it's Emmy nominated. I don't really follow awards and things like that, but for whatever that means, I don't know if Emmys are worth anything anyway, really, in the grand scheme of things. But it's really well received critically and by the fans, because he's not having to bow down to these studio execs telling him, oh, you have to do this, or the advertisers want this, or whatever. He's doing his own thing, and the show is better for it. And he has actually had a couple dealings with networks before on other shows, and from what I hear, they're good shows, but they just kind of tank because of studio interference and things like that. So I'm sure he was like, well, if I'm never going to do this again, I'm going to do it my way. And that's what he's doing. And that's what we're kind of trying to do when we do create our own projects. So something to think about, something I'm constantly thinking about. Do I want to, let me go back for a minute here. So and I've mentioned this before, but my comic book, the reason why I'm putting out these single issues is just to create benchmarks along the way. Ultimately, I want a full collection of my comic that's like a trade paperback or maybe even a hardback or whatever. When I get to that point, I'll decide that. But the full story in one volume is what my ultimate goal is. But in order to break up the monotony, or not even the monotony, because I don't find this work monotonous. I don't know if I can pronounce that word correctly. I can't. Okay. Anyway, I know what it means. You know what it means. Anyway, so. Now I'm rambling again. Sorry about that. Let me get back to what I was thinking. So yeah, this isn't a chore, me working on comics. I like doing it and everything, but it's when you look at the big picture. Oh, I've got this huge story to tell. It's just so cumbersome. I mean, I'm never going to get it done. In the same way that I'm creating these videos, 100 days. That's a lot of days, but I don't think of it as 100 days. I think of it, well, I think of it, I just break it up. I think if I can get to 10 episodes, if I can get to 20 episodes, if I can get to 30, and it just goes from there. And I think that's really helpful advice for anyone working on comic book projects or anything like that. Just break it up, and then once you, even if you're working out, well, you do 10 reps or do 20 reps, and if I do these 30 reps, then I can do another 30 or whatever. So it's really helpful to think like that. Don't look at the big picture so much. I mean, you always want to keep it in mind, especially if you're writing stories and you want to know kind of where you're headed, but try to break those things off into kind of piecemeal. So that's what I'm thinking about. Hopefully I'm not too all over the board. I'd like to, any of you guys that are kind of following mainstream comics, I'm curious, not because I want to do what they're doing, but I'm curious if they've kind of broken that mold, or if it's still pretty much, each issue is a certain number, set number of pages. Because I go into comic book stores nowadays, and to be honest, I don't know. I don't know. I look at all this stuff and going, yeah, I don't know what to start. I don't know what I should pick up or whatever. I usually just pick up like a trade paperback of, whatever. I bought. I think the last thing I bought was like the Avatar collection of, stories based on what happened after Avatar: The Last Airbender, things like that, and I'll buy just the collection. But I look at all this other stuff and I see all this great art and everything, but I don't really know where to jump in. So it's kind of intimidating for me because I'm kind of in my own independent comic book world. So I don't really know much about the mainstream stuff. I did see, and I'm just gonna keep rambling and going to other things, but while it's fresh in my brain, I saw, it's kind of a viral thing. I guess there was a new Batgirl costume design, and I guess they're working on a new thing. And that actually looked intriguing to me because it didn't look like this dark, gritty, a lot of the other stuff you're seeing DC do or Marvel. It's everything. It seems like, we've got to do this, these really dark stories, especially in the DC universe. So this one looked fun. They kind of young Batgirl down a little bit, looked like she might have been in high school or whatever, and so it really looked interesting. The artwork looked great. So maybe that that's a mainstream comic that I might check out. But and evidently I'm not alone, because it's like I said, these images and people have been doing fan art and everything. So yeah, I don't know. But if anyone has any recommendations on, just so I know when I do and go into a comic book store, what's good to get. And of course you'd have to know my sensibilities. If you know me, I like fun stories. I like stories with kids as the protagonist. I like, anyway, I like all that stuff. So anyway, I'm totally rambling on, but I think I did get a little tidbit of, some helpful or useful information in there, I hope. This is, again, this is 100 Days of Making Comics. This is day 15. I will see you again for day 16. Yeah, so thanks again for all the new people. Follow me if you want to subscribe to my channel. That'd be great. I'm trying to kind of build up that audience. You can like my videos, comment if you have any questions. I'd be more than happy to answer them. Thanks to everyone that is watching. Yeah, that's it for today. I'll see you guys tomorrow. That is all.